Good morning and welcome to realestate.com.au's rent series. This is our second rent series, so welcome. We have got a big lineup for today. First of all, my name is Allie, Thompson, and this is Kurtis, Pirotta, and here we go.
Welcome everyone, and most importantly I wanted to say a huge welcome to our great guest Stephen from Melbourne Real Estate, one of the big dogs I think is what we joked about before. Is that
that's
a title?
What you call us now.
Unofficial title, but that's okay. So welcome Stephen, thank you very much for joining us.
No, thanks for inviting me.
Cool. What I think we'd like to unpack today is just around growth, and so what growth can look like over the next 12 months in 2020, but more importantly, what are some of the ideas, tips and tricks that you can implement in your business today to have some manageable and solid growth. And in Stephen's role, a really awesome helicopter view of a fantastic business down in Melbourne and a really broad team. So without further ado, maybe let's find out a little bit more about yourself, mate. How long have you been around and what sort of the day-to-day look like for you at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So I've been with Melbourne Real Estate for a bit over 10 years now. When I joined the firm, we had about 240 properties under management. From that time, we haven't made any direct acquisitions, but we've grown the business to 3,600 plus. And that's been exciting and a bit of a whirlwind in terms of growth and numbers. And we've gone from 7 staff to over 70. So yeah, fun and games. And so I look after a BDM team who continue that growth and work with the property managers and the leasing team as well, because all of that facilitates growth in the business. So yeah, it's a bit of a all-encompassing role, but one that's got its challenges and it's a lot of fun as well.
Yeah. So with that team, what does that look like exactly for you guys at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So we've got a big group of property managers supported by team leaders, assistant property managers, and then administration staff. We've got, I think it's 7 BDMs at current, and 8 leasing staff as well. So we do segment the roles. We think that that's something important in our business. The leasing guys are great at leasing, the BDMs are great at listing the properties, and the property managers are your relationship types. So we've identified that and designed the roles specifically in that way. The admin types support that, and then that allows us to focus on our true strengths, and the business has flourished under that model.
So Allie and I get to see agencies all of the time, and they're always looking, I suppose, for the right structure. And there may not be the right structure, but how do you sort of bring people into the business to make sure that, I suppose, they're executing on what the business strategy is, which is ultimately growth, and how do you make sure you sort of put the right people in the right roles?
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to identify is that you're not a HR person. I'm a business development manager, at best. So again, we look to external guidance to see how it's done best. We don't just wing it. When we started, we thought, oh yeah, he might be a good property manager or she might be a good property manager, and hoped it, but we found out pretty quickly that that's not really a prudent way of doing it. So our staff go through a whole range of measures, psychometric testing, all sorts of things to see that they are the right people for the roles that we're putting them into. And we also look at their future development, because nobody wants to sit still in careers anymore. Everybody wants to move to the next level. So we try and look at what traits they carry and where they can go within the business after their initial entry point. So that allows us to get young and keen staff on board early and then develop them, so they stay with the business for longer, and the retention piece has been quite strong as a result.
And especially in property management as well, we want to make sure that staff retention is there.
Yeah.
So we're keeping them from start to finish.
Yep.
In a sense of, this is the person looking after your management moving forward.
Absolutely, and you also keep it really clear and evident that they have a career path. So this isn't just hi, you're a property manager, see you in 30 years when you retire. That's not us. So we will always encourage them to develop their skill set if they want to, if that's within them, and they'll continue to grow and develop in the direction that they're heading for their career.
And with the development itself, particularly if we're looking at growth, obviously incentivising teams to perform is often the best way, particularly salespeople, whether you're a BDM or in sales, they love the incentive, the chase, the hunt.
The dollar.
The dollar, yeah, we all know I'm talking about money.
Yeah.
What exactly does that look like for you, for your business, and what's worked and what hasn't? Because you probably are now at a point where you've learned what doesn't work. And there's business owners out there, whether you're in regional Australia or in big metro cities around the country, that sort of are like, I just don't know how to make this work.
Yeah, okay. So the biggest thing is your business development managers or your property managers need to believe in the product. So if you don't really have a good product, you've got to make it better. Then they'll be proud of where they are and you'll hear it in their voice. So if you're selling the best product, whatever it is, you're going to be pretty confident walking into a meeting about it. Okay, if you don't have a good product, then it's a challenge from day dot. So first thing is, that I'd do is focus on making your product good. The next thing that you want to look at is, have I got the right people doing the right parts for the business? If you haven't, or you don't, your property managers, they don't ask the question of their owners, oh, do you have another property? Okay, straight away, if that's not happening, you need to get a dedicated business development manager whose focus is on getting new business, bringing new listings to the business. And once you start focusing on that, then you'll start to see results. If they've got a good product to sell, then effectively it'll work. Now, when it comes to remuneration for that BDM, then it becomes a little bit more complex, and the business owners need to decide what is their aim. Is their aim to just get numbers through the door, to boost your rent roll, even though it might be operating at a loss, but hoping that those properties will sell in the future, and so you'll get your commissions at the back end? Or do you want to run a profitable rent roll, delivering on a really high standard of service? Because if you charge, you've got to deliver. And if you want to run a profitable rent roll, then you've really got to start looking at your property management business and start structuring it on the basis that you're actually not going to make so much profit initially, but what you're going to do is provide a really good service. And with service becomes reputation, and with reputation comes organic growth.
That's the long game, right?
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing a trend now where agencies are realising, well, this rent roll is so important, everyone's been talking about it for so long, but I need to make it profitable and create that longevity. Otherwise, they're going to leave, and that asset that I have will immediately disappear. Yeah,
that's right. And it's difficult. Like, you know, I look back when we were running 500, 600, 800, 1,000 properties. It wasn't a profit machine. All it was doing was building a superannuation fund, you know, for want of better words, and a business, but it wasn't making any money. If we weren't selling properties and doing stuff on the side, then it wasn't really productive for us. So yes, it looked great. The bank liked it. There's no problems there. But in terms of a business model, I wasn't getting cream off sales and cream off property management, by no means, but the asset growth looked good.
So what was that shift? So when you were at the 800 mark, first of all, quickly, is it easier running a business now at over 3,000, or was it easier running a business at 800?
Depends who you ask.
Okay, well, I'm asking you.
Yeah, okay. So I think it's more comfortable when you have scale, but everything is bigger.
Okay.
Like everything is bigger. The amount of computers and desk space and business cards and just everything is like epic in terms of its proportions compared to when we started off. The wages bill is, you know, you sit there and you go, whoa, when it comes in. So all of that is something that from the business point, it can be a bit daunting. But in the same way, it's recurring income. So, you know, if we look at the last 12 months in the sales market, when the sales really dipped, we had every month that same income coming in. And then if you look at the rental market in Melbourne, it's been slowly shifting higher. So again, with the rentals going up, so has the income slightly over time gone up. So that's made the business more solid. However, there's a strong temptation to try and make the property management department more profitable. But with that, you either got to start cutting your growth through BDMs or start cutting your service through loading up property managers with more properties. I don't really like the idea of either of those if you really want to deliver. When you get to about 800 properties, you're probably losing 10 or 15% per year just through natural attrition. That's a staff member just gaining more listings on their own to stay the same, because they've got to put on 120 if you're losing 15% of 800. So when you get to that point, it's like, oh, Struth, if I want to keep growing, I've got to put another BDM on. And then if you get to 1,500, you've got to put another BDM on. Let alone if the market shifts and these investors start selling their properties more often, because we've seen all those cycles. If the investors start selling out, or as we've seen in the last 2 years, nearly everything's sold to owner-occupiers. The investors aren't in the market. So pressure on rent rolls is actually been pretty high. In these investors have been selling out and owner-occupiers buying them. So finding more leads has been crucial.
So getting that growth, when you had that tipping point, what was the shift that you made to then ramp up your growth?
And more BDMs.
Okay.
It's pretty simple.
Okay.
It's more BDMs, but the problem that you look at from a business owner point of view, BDMs don't really earn any money. They just cost you money.
Right.
Right? So it's your profit goes because you're spending that chunk of your profit on a BDM, but your balance sheet looks good.
So how did you then incentivize to either keep the BDMs, but get them to be, I suppose, actually generating revenue?
Yeah, okay.
Or income, rather.
Yeah, so the key thing is they need to win that business. So they've got to look everywhere and dig, and they've got to have that hunter gene to be able to find the deals. That's really, really important. But on top of that, they've got to be able to dig into your databases that you've got, or you've got to be generating leads for them to be able to help. But they've also got to have that longing to find deals where other people haven't found them, whether or not it's cold calling people that are doing construction in your area, that are building lot developments, or whether or not they're speaking to B&I groups, or whether or not it's accountancy firms that might be able to refer them business. There's all sorts of different ways that you can attack, and you really need to attack them all. Because you can find a gold mine, a referrer who might end up giving you 100 properties. That's a dream come true. You're sitting there and you're going, yes, you little ripper. But on the flip side, you might spend a lot of time with another potential referrer or potential client, and it ends up being 1 or 2 a year. So you can't give up. You've got to have resilient BDMs. You've got to have enough of them to be able to continue the growth.
And what was the big carrot, I suppose, that you used to get them fired up?
Yeah, okay. So I think the BDMs need to be rewarded. I don't think you can sit there and go, oh yeah, here's a couple of $100 for bringing on that property. The asset value of the property is substantial. So you need to think about, okay, what would I pay externally for that? There's people out there buying rent rolls at 3.5 times. Right? So if you look at the asset value of the rent roll, and multiply it by 3.5, if a BDM brings it on, are you going to pay them a pittance? It's effectively, it brought you the same amount of asset value and it's cost you less. So where do you find that balance? I think you need to reward the BDMs in a manner where they are comfortable in that role, and that they don't feel that it can be a career for them. So that's really, really important. How you do that is individual on the business. Right, so I've seen heaps of BDMs that come to our office, when they're changing careers or going into changing businesses, and I talk to them about the strategies that they've been using at their businesses. And some businesses are out there and they go, look, I just want you to get numbers. Okay, so they don't care if they're offering the services at 4% or 5%. I just want numbers. Just bring me 10 properties a month, bring me 8 properties a month, whatever it might be. And so that's where the business decision comes. That's where the leadership comes. If you want quality properties with owners that are willing to pay good fees for good service, well, again, it comes down to that structure. If you then motivate your BDMs to achieve those outcomes, so you would tier a BDM commission if you just wanted numbers based on the numbers that they achieved. If you wanted a business development manager to get higher fees, well, then you'd structure their system so that the higher the fee they got, the more they got. And you also want to be careful that you don't allow a BDM to be skewed naturally to a letting fee or a management fee, because otherwise they'll give away the letting fee or the management fee and focus on the one that they're paid on.
Yeah.
So it needs to be balanced in that regard as well.
You said before in regards to a BDM asking the question. I think a lot of people forget when they're asking for, landlords to contribute for marketing, that BDMs are the ones that have to go out there and say, this is what we offer. We know our product. This is what it is.
Yeah.
I guess the BDMs have to have a great personality as well to be able to handle the, oh no, I'm not going to pay for landlord, or yes, I am going to pay. But it also comes back to the service, right?
Absolutely. Like I think you've got to believe in that product that you're selling. Like if we went out to any of our clients, and all of our clients pay for advertising. There's nobody who gets free ads. No, it doesn't happen. So the question is, what are they getting? Is it value? Could they get away with cheaper? Right? And so we have a pretty simple script. It goes around, okay, we could put a cheaper ad on realestate.com and the other portals, but it won't work. It won't get you the highest rent in the shortest period of time. So why do you want that? Why do you want to save $100 and take another week to rent your property that's $500 a week or $400, whatever it is? Right. So if you can make them see sense, then and let the dollars talk, then you get the result. And we don't find that we miss out on deals because purchasers or vendors or owners want to avoid paying for the advertising. They just need to understand why they need to.
Yeah. It's funny, we spend lots of time, as we said, and a lot of the conversations we have are around marketing, obviously. And I find sometimes it's the mindset. So at the very start, you were saying when you bring people in, you're wanting to make sure that they're in the right roles to have the right conversations, and how culture is key for businesses' success. But more importantly, you were talking about understanding the value. And so knowing why people work here, you can see it in their voice, you said. And I think sometimes that's a really great way of actually saying, well, once you identify what the value we provide to our customers is, you are going to be far more successful at selling it yourself.
Absolutely.
Because you actually know what the value is.
Yeah, and it's the investor journey. It's educating the staff, not just on, okay, we charge this amount for this and this amount for this. It's understanding what negative gearing is, and understanding how owners might be in a bit of pain until tax time when they get their tax refunds. And it's understanding that if 1 month you say to them, oh look, here's your rent, but we've taken out a letting fee and advertising, and you give them $400 when they were expecting $1,300, right? You're sitting there going, you've got to understand that pain. You've got to give them forewarning for that. You've got to understand that they're going to have to budget for that, like you or I have to budget for having $900 not there this month. So all of those things are really, really important parts of creating a team of people that are understanding the clientele they're working with. And I think that's a really important thing too. If all of your clientele are 60-year-old farmers, okay, you've got to have somebody that a 60-year-old farmer is going to look at and want to work with. If you put somebody in who doesn't gel with that type of person, they're not going to get any deals. Yeah. It's pretty common sense. If you aren't impressed by that person when they come into your office the first time and you think this person's switched on, they're a likely good performer for my market, then you're crazy employing them even though they're the daughter or son of a mate or whatever it might be. You've got to go past that.
Yeah. It's funny you say farmers. For my birthday in December, I actually got an Akubra.
Right.
So I feel like I'm really prepared for some of these conversations. What's that?
Tim Fisher.
Yeah, thanks. All right, so Stephen, we've got another few minutes with you and we've got some questions coming in.
Yeah.
But before I get to some of these, so that I can have a look and find some, we're talking to a broad range of people here. And so we've got people, like I said, in metro and regional markets that might just have one BDM or are thinking about getting their first BDM.
Yeah.
What would be your advice to those customers that are starting to make that decision, and some tips that you've maybe learnt along the way that can help them?
Yeah, okay. So the first thing that I'd look at is you need a BDM. If you don't have a BDM, you're missing out on 100 properties a year. That should be your baseline target. And if you look at the asset value for that, most people would spend the wages of a BDM to obtain the asset value that they generate over a 12-month period. So if you look at it just from a business point of view, that makes sense. If you're already running a real estate agency and you're doing sales, then you have a huge font of leads. Now, your sales agents, we love them, they're beautiful people, but they don't often think of the property managers. So you've got to set up a structure that allows either the property managers to pilfer the leads that are coming in through from your sales guys because they're contacts that have come in contact with the business. Or you need to remunerate your sales guys substantially so they are actually motivated to ask the question at opens, is this person an investor? Now, if you get yourself a BDM and just give them the sales leads that are coming in, okay, that they should be able to survive. Okay, that's as simple as it is. If they can't survive, then there's something going on. If they are a digger or a hunter, right, they'll survive and flourish. Okay, so it's not that complicated as long as they believe in the product. Really key. That's how you get your staff retention. If they believe that your product is the best in your town, if they believe it's your best in your suburb and your best in your area, they're not going to go and work and make their life harder, leaving and going to work for the second best agent. Doesn't make any sense. I don't want to sell a rubbish product. I want to sell the best product. That's the easiest one to sell. So you get your staff retention off the back of that, and then the best performers in other agencies want to come work for you.
So that's your attraction strategy as well.
Yeah.
So you're setting up a go-to business for not only the industry, so the industry respects the brand and the business and the work that you're doing, as well as landlords, obviously. But that's how you're sort of keeping people, but also attracting the best.
Correct. Give them opportunity, let them grow and develop, let them work with the best tools and the best gadgets and the best time-saving strategies, and they flourish.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't sound that difficult, but you've got to be engaged enough to worry about that with your property management team. And there's still a lot of people out there worrying about sales.
Have you, in terms of the team structures, have you looked at, or in your experience, have you had sort of a situation where you know you may not have the right people in the right roles and therefore that's preventing your growth, your ability to move forward? How have you nipped that in the bud?
Yeah, that's a sort of an ongoing challenge. We look at staff hires that we've had that haven't worked and ones that have been successful, and then we've had ones that have shifted around. So we've had sales guys who started as leasing consultants. We've had BDMs who started in admin. So they do chop and change, but when you start to understand whether or not that, you start to understand the traits of that person and their character, their work ethic, and their engagement, well, then you can shift them into the right spot. Shifting them off or managing them to their limits is a challenge. It really is. Nobody likes having tough decisions or making tough calls on staff and their future potential, but it needs to be had for them as well as for you. You know, if they're not going to be cut out and they're really struggling in a role, okay, you can try and find another role for them. But once you've done that once or twice, then it's better to have an open conversation about the fact that there isn't a hell of a lot more than this. And then if they are happy in their role, then they settle down and they go on. But if they're not, then they'll move on their own
It works
two
for
feet.
progression, I think, as well, of knowing all the facets of the business to say, well, you know what, you did this and now you can move on to this.
Correct,
Yep.
correct. And it takes a certain level of maturity. Like if you are upfront and honest with people and you actually care about them, you're not doing it because you think that they're a robot who's not performing correctly, then they respect that. And if they sort of get to the point where they go, oh, maybe property management isn't for me, or maybe leasing or whatever the facet of the business that they're in isn't for me, that's okay. Not all of us are cut out and in the same mold to do the same thing. They can go off and explore other options, or start learning some other information. And we'll support them with a reference that sends them on their way with a smile on their face, and they're still got 40 friends. So that's important too.
Kylie wants to know, who's watching, what's the handover strategy look like when the new business team bring on that management, and then how do you sort of break up or hand over the business to the PM
great,
team?
good question. The way that we do it is that the BDM brings the property on, and if they've seen the property, they organise all of the advertising. They send the advert live, then they do an introduction to the property manager, to the owner, and they go downstairs and face to face. They do a handover of the file and they walk through everything that has happened with the file up until that stage. And then the property manager goes and starts communicating with the owner. The property manager does the first open for inspection, so that they've seen the property too. If the BDM hadn't seen the property, they go to the property and do the first open for inspection, the property manager would do a further one, and then the leasing team look after leasing.
Right.
So then it's a system that's designed around the owner only having 2 points of contact, being the business development manager who signs them up, and then the property manager. And it means that the business development manager isn't running around doing leasing. We don't want that, but if they haven't seen the property, it's important they go once. Sometimes these are brand new properties off the plan, that type of thing. So they go once and have a look. After that, they hand it over to the PM.
So when calling your office, your landlords know exactly who they're calling.
Absolutely, yeah. They get a handover and they'll get a call from the property manager, normally within 3 or 4 hours of that email going across saying, Julie's your property manager, here's some information about her, she'll be in contact with you soon. They get a call and then they know that it's Julie from then on. And we tell them that when we're signing them up. Great. I'm not going to be your property manager. Yeah.
Another question from Karen is around whether BDM should have a portfolio or manage some properties themselves. Have you done that in the past, and what's your sort of thoughts on that now?
I'd steer well clear of that. I don't think BDMs are property managers. I'm certainly not. I've managed properties in the past, and you should ask some of my colleagues how that went. My clients loved me, but the files weren't too neat. That's about the way I'd describe it. So I think that BDMs, it's good that they have an understanding of the difficulties that property managers go through. It's really important that you have a really clear, open communication from your property managers to your BDMs, so that if there is a gripe or if there is a problem, your BDM can step back in. But fundamentally what we're looking at is BDMs are good at BDM, property managers are good at property management.
Two different skills.
Yeah, two different skills.
Roger that.
Yep.
All right. Well, look, Stephen, I think we're just out of time now. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks
we seriously appreciate it. And hopefully you've been able to capture some nuggets of gold in this sort of candid conversation that we've learnt about Stephen's business and how it's all been going over the last 10 years since you've been there. The challenges, the opportunities, the key learnings around people. If you're a people manager out there, sometimes we can appreciate that sometimes people just need a bit of a hand in the right direction.
Correct.
So thank you very much. We're very appreciative.
Thank you. Kurtis, Allie, thank you.
Allie's going to talk to us now about Prop 20.
So Prop 20 is the biggest event that is coming from realestate.com.au, and it's coming to all states. You will hear from our CEO, Owen Wilson, as well as our chief economist, Nerida. And then Kurtis, you can actually choose your own path in regards to Prop 20.
You absolutely can.
Yeah, absolutely can. Sales or the property management path. And the best thing about the property management path as well is that you will hear from Fiona Blaney, you'll hear from Mike Gill, who is talking about landlords and tenant insights from realestate.com.au.
And he is such a great guy.
There's so much data there that is really great to look at.
And I think as well, it's sort of a different way of understanding who are our customers and what's important to them, so that we can then pivot to change the way our service looks like. So Stephen just before was talking about understanding the value and understanding what's important to customers. And so some of Mike's information will be absolutely superb for you to learn.
And as well as Lee Woodward talking about landlord paid advertising, which is always one of those things that you've got to ask the question, as Stephen said. And last of all, at Prop 20, Chris Helder.
What a legend. Useful Belief. Useful Belief is one of my favourite presentations, so we can't wait.
Yep, can't wait. We will see you there. Some sessions are already booked out, so I would encourage you to jump onto realestate.com.au on our Agent Marketing Centre. Have a look through the states that you're interested in, as well as the session times that you're looking into.
We might actually show you now the next slide where you can absolutely see the events that are happening and where they're happening. And so you can see Melbourne is our first one, kicking off in March on the 11th, followed by Adelaide very swiftly, Perth, and then back on the East Coast to Brisbane and Sydney. One of my favourite, I have to say, Allie, is actually going to be Lee Woodward as well. We spend lots of time talking to people about marketing, as we said, and sometimes there is this fear of asking for advertising, particularly paying for the advertising from landlords, and hopefully Stephen has helped us uncover today some of the ways that we can overcome some of these objections, because if you don't ask,
you're not going to get anything.
You don't get.
To wrap it up, Kurtis and I are your rent specialists here at realestate.com.au, and it is important that we are showing you the up-to-date data as well as all the reporting and tools that realestate.com.au have. So please feel free to get in touch with either of us. We're more than happy to help.
So thank you very much for joining us for today's Rent series. As we have indicated from the very start, we're wanting to do as much as we can to connect with all of our customers around Australia, those that are hungry to grow, hungry to learn about new exciting initiatives, new trends, marketing conversations, tips and tricks. And so we're doing this in this forum, and we'd love your feedback. If we can do things better, please absolutely let us know. If you have ideas about what you'd like to learn, who you'd like us to interview, information you'd like us to cover, please absolutely reach out to us. The next one will be in April, and in these post communications we'll let you know a bit of an idea of when that will be. So until then,
Wonderful. Thank you very much and have a great day.
enjoy your day.